What's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? Happy Saturday. I hope you're doing well. Let me get some fantasy music going here. to chill out too. Let's see here. I decided to do. Well, I'm Anthony Joyce Rivera, everyone. For those who don't know me, for those of you who do, hello. I'm streaming on Moonbeam, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X right now. So feel free to join me on any of those if you like. And I'm going to be just doing a little deep dive on the new Dungeons and Dragons Dragon Delves book, of which I am one of the designers. This was a really cool book to work on. It is the first book outside of the new core book release for the new rule set that they kind of updated. So these are the first adventures, technically, for D&D 2024, and it's exciting to see them out in the wild now and to talk about them. I'm also going to be kind of going over a lot of questions that folks on Reddit had. There was a subreddit for Dragon Delves on Reddit. Recommend you check it out. A lot of good stuff there, and a lot of folks dropped a lot of questions about the book that I thought it'd be cool to talk about and go over, and maybe I'll do one of these again. Who knows? But let's see here. We have the book open right now on D&D Beyond. I'm going to switch cameras up here a little bit, but this is the actual hardcover book. This is the alt cover that you can get at your local gaming store if you pre-ordered it, or if you go there today, or I believe within the next week or two, while supplies last, they should have some for you. So great artwork on this book. I love the cover. It's just got a retro vibe, very bright, and just kind of like pops. A really cool for an alt cover. And the regular cover is actually really cool too. I do like them both. Let's see. I think they may have the covers. Here we go. View cover art. I'm going to show it right here. That is the regular cover art. It would have the title on it and everything like that. But this is the actual artwork on the regular cover that you'll be able to get on, Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or wherever. Not in and also local game stores do have this, but it's just not the alt cover. So that is a difference. Hey, Silent Brad, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm going to be doing one of just a little deep dive on this stuff. So I'm going to pull up the credits here. Let's see here. This was a book led by Amanda Hammond and James Wyatt. They're both great senior designers. I know Amanda's a senior designer. James is one of the principals now on the D&D team. And he also did the Dragon books, Dragonomicon, I believe it is, for previous editions. So a lot of deep lore and knowledge of dragons on the team. Also, these are the designers here. You'll see, hey, my first official Wizards credit right there. And I wrote one of the adventures, but all these folks wrote adventures too. Justice, Mackenzie, Ren, Ron, Chris Perkins, all these folks, Aaron Roberts, Wes Schneider, Carl Sibley, Jason Tonjo, a lot of, again, great designers. And here's the editing team, Sadie Lowry, Hannah Rose, a lot of familiar names. Really cool to see. And this book was dedicated to Chris Perkins for his decades of contributions to D&D. He has since left, and he has announced that he will be over at Darrington Press now, which is great because Chris Perkins is awesome. He's amazing, and it's good to see him continue his career. So this book, well, he was involved with, I think it's technically his last book. So there is that. All right, so let's jump in. I'm going to go over the introduction, and then I'm going to jump to my adventure to talk a little bit about like what to expect from Dragon Delves. So Dragon Delves is an anthology. There are 10 adventures, one for each of the dragons. So 5 for the chromatic and 5 for the metallic. And this is just a smattering of adventures that range from levels 1 to 12. There are 3 adventures you could do duet style play. I know some folks have called it solo play, but duet is when there's one dungeon master and one player. Solo play would be when it's just literally you by yourself and you're both the DM and the player, kind of. So this has got 3 adventures for duet play. That term is not necessarily widespread use. It's one that I use because I designed duet adventures, and some in the industry call it that. They might say like one player, which would imply there's one DM, only one player character. So that is kind of what's neat about this book. You'll see here, these are meant to be one shots. Now, one shots, let's kind of define that a little bit. One shot is a single adventure that is fully contained, and that's it. Now, one shot is usually used to kind of describe you play it in one night in one shot. Some of these can be done that way. Some of these are a little bit longer than that. And depending on your DM style, it may take you, for example, from my adventure, it might take you 2 sessions versus 1. But my adventure could be done in 1, for example, because it's like a dungeon crawl. You could just knock it out and be done with it. Some of these have a longer overarching, you could go through hex crawls on different parts of like a geographic area, do different things. So that'll take a couple sessions to do. So this book is for dungeon masters who want to have single self-contained adventures that span several levels with a draconic theme. Also with like dungeons as well as a theme, Dungeons and Dragons. There you go. And you can weave these together if you want in an ongoing campaign. They kind of give you some guidance here to plug them in. Maybe they're just like you're doing a campaign already and you want to plug these in. I know like the Dragonlance campaign might be a good one to just like plug it into Dragonlance because there's a lot of dragons in there. You could do that. You could also create your own campaign. They have several options. I know in the subreddit, we had a lot of folks asking questions. Yeah, as Silent Brad, I'm seeing you in chat. Chris Perkins maybe want to become a DM. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chris Perkins has done a lot of actual plays. You can watch him and see his DM style online, which is phenomenal. Again, he has been designing since the TSR days. In the late 80s, actually, he started writing for like Dragon Magazine, submitting, and came up. So he's got a breadth of experience, tons of information, and then also his DM style is very cool and fun. You can see that on like YouTube and stuff. Let's see here. And Silent Brad, if you got, or anybody in Moonbeam or anybody out there, if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in chat. I am watching, but I'll be also going into the subreddit and looking at the subreddit chat to see if to answer questions that people have dropped previously, but also to answer the ones that people might be dropping now. So one of the first questions that people asked in the subreddit, and I've seen this kind of like all over the internet, is how can you use this as a campaign? I want to stop and give an opinion and take it what you want, but it's just my opinion. Anthology books are good because they're more made to be, I think, like one shots. Someone misses a night, so you can't play with the whole party. So you kind of pull out the anthology book, you run an adventure so that the overall story, the player who's like not there for that session doesn't miss out. I think fundamentally, I don't think anthologies are made to be weaved together. They can be. It's just there's plenty of other options for full campaigns that would be much better. I'm going to just say that. Like, there are other modules specifically written to be an entire campaign, which would require a lot less work from dungeon masters to interweave the stories and make it cohesive. And I would recommend that. However, I will answer the question, how do I make this a campaign? So the book has a few options. You'll see here, the mysterious patron. This kind of gives a laydown, Bahamut, for example, takes the adventurers under his wing, sends them on adventures to deal with draconic concerns. And here's even one that involves mine. The patron might feign surprise when an adventure that doesn't at first seem to involve a dragon, such as the Will of Orcus, turns out to revolve around one. So this is, kind of like a powerful dragon, Bahamut in this specific example, but it could be another one. I mean, if you're going to go like with you remember this book has good and bad dragons. So I could see a part. I like to think sometimes some parties play like the lawful evil side too. I could see maybe the players working for Tiamat, and then maybe that's an angle, right? I think that'd be a cool angle. It's like, hey, you're a bunch of oath breakers or necromancers and all this stuff. You're working for a dragon, and you could go the evil route and say, we got to capture the metallic dragons, and then the chromatic ones are maybe dragons getting out of line, trying to overthrow the Tiamat or the evil dragon equivalent, and you want to get rid of them. So that's one angle. It's kind of looking at it from that angle. But then you could go the metallic side where you're working for a good dragon. You are good heroes, and you're going to help the metallic dragons out that need help across Faerun or whatever world you're working in. And the chromatic ones you're going to kind of defeat because they're bad. So that's something to think about there. Option 2, Brazen Egg. This one, it talks about, you get entrusted with a brazen egg. The egg must be steeped in the hordes of 10 dragons. One of each chromatic and metallic kind activates power. So you kind of got this egg, and you're going around, and you're going to essentially anoint it in these dragon hordes, and then it'll crack open, and you'll have a baby dragon that'll be your own. Kind of like, I guess this would be cool to look at how to raise your dragon kind of storyline vibe, right? I think that'd be neat. Let's see here. And then you got Horde magic items. So this one, if you have Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which, by the way, that is a really good book. So James Wyatt was the lead on that, who's also one of the leads on this book. And this book draws a lot from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So if you're looking for like lore, and I know that was some of the videos I've seen online, people talking about dragon delves, they talked about the artwork that's in this book, and there is a lot of artwork, different styles of art, and before each adventure, you'll have like artwork of the dragon that's featured in it from editions that are previous, or like Magic the Gathering, kind of show how Wizards of the Coast depicted dragons throughout the last 20 years, and in D&D the last 50 years. And so that's neat. But if you're looking for like lore, how they act, or their personalities, really nitty-gritty details about the dragon types, Fizban's is the book you're going to want to go along with this one to really beef up that experience and lore and whatnot. And this one here talks about getting different magic items, and that way you can all 4 items are slumbering when the characters first acquire them, but in later adventures the items can be awakened. So you got these 4 magical items, and you're going to essentially awaken them. And so here, like Dragon Touch Focus. Let's see here. This could be a scepter, an amulet, or a crystal. And it shows you that it's a uncommon item when it's slumbering, and when it's stirring, it becomes rare. And so it gets like more powerful as you use it, or when you wake it up and stuff like that. So that's one thing, is like you got these magic items, you want to wake them up. Now, in the Reddit, folks asked me a lot about my adventure, the Will of Orcus, and kind of what I think would be a way to tie that in. So I'm a big fan of the Demon Prince of Undeath, Orcus. Like, Orcus is the bomb. I think a cool way to maybe tie Orcus into these adventures is you could have something with like a Dracolich at the end. Maybe there's something going on where you have to stop a Dracolich. You kind of find that out throughout the adventures, and then Orcus or the Dracolich is kind of like the big bad. I think there could be some demonic influence with these dragons. Maybe some of the reasons why they're doing what they're doing is they're influenced by demonic powers. So I would go that route as one. Again, I think the 2 original ones that I'm offering on this stream, for example, would be Orcus, or like consider the this option 1, but maybe from the bad guy angle. I think it'd be an interesting twist. And so the cool thing about this book too is all these adventures they have a new style that's presented in how the adventures are, presented to the dungeon master, that are focused on streamlining preparation and play. I think they really do a good job at making it simple for a DM to open up the book, find the level of adventure they're going to play, or the one they want to run, and know exactly what's about through the summary, and then all the things they need to do. So I'm just going to quickly go through a few other things this book has. Adventures for one character. This talks about this blessing of the lone champion. So you could run, again, some of these adventures with a single player, and you would give them this blessing. And yeah, here is a little bit about the history of, dragons in D&D, right? 50-year-old game now, lots of history with dragons and how they kind of evolved over that 50-year time span. So that's kind of cool. All right, now I'm going to go to my adventure. Chapter 3, The Will of Orcus. It's an adventure for level 4 characters. And I love the art. So I'll talk a little bit about this, and then we'll talk about the art, and then we'll dive into the adventure. So this adventure is inspired by, again, some of the earliest adventures I've written. I started writing adventures for D&D in 2018. My first big one was the Will of Orcus. It was a series of 4 adventures for Adventures League, and you'll see some callbacks kind of in this adventure. And I thought it'd be really neat if my first adventure for Wizards would be something to deal with Orcus. So this is the Will of Orcus. My first adventure ever was the Will of Orcus. And so it's kind of like full circle there. So that was really cool for me. But my approach here was to give a very kind of like traditional experience. So I know that a lot of the newer books that are coming out, a lot of the adventures, they're great. They're just different in terms of what you might expect from traditional fantasy, and that's really cool. I love them. I love a lot of them. This book has a lot of great ones that do that. But with this one specifically, I think I was looking at, okay, D&D is 50 years old. I think that there's room for like this, I don't want to say old school, but just an inspired by the 50 years of D&D's history to kind of showcase how that evolves and iterates and kind of lives up to today, right? So if you're looking for a classic kind of feel of a dungeon where you're going to fight bad guys and there's going to be combat, or it's going to be traps and there's going to be secrets and twists, this is the adventure, I think, for you. That's kind of the intent, right? It features a silver dragon right here, Nazarum. Funny thing, Nazarum is the name of a dragon in the Will of Orcus, the first one. So it's a little loose Easter egg there. But this one is a really cool art piece. And you'll see that in this book. Again, this book features a lot of different art styles. This artwork in my adventure is more traditional fantasy of what you'd expect in a D&D book. And I think that's really cool. And it wasn't like I didn't have any discussions with the artist. So I think it's neat that the art director and the team probably saw my adventure and said, okay, Anthony's writing like this traditional kind of feel, this classic kind of adventure. And they matched the classic kind of artwork with it, which is really neat. So I thought that was cool to see here. Let me see here. Checking some stuff real fast in chat. Looking at this. Yeah. Hey, Cloud Surfer. Yeah, I'm streaming on Moonbeam. I am streaming on Moonbeam as well. I'm in the Tabletop Guild right now, streaming there. So you can find me over there, Cloud Surfer. Let's see what else. So that's kind of why you got this classic look. So here's how it opens up. That is neat. You get right to it with the Dungeon Master stuff. Key plot points. What do you need to know? You're going to get your quest from the innkeeper, Orin Solaris. Basic traditional trope. It begins in an inn or a tavern. That's what we're going for here. Always throwback. I want something familiar. Because I do think, D&D is introduced to many new generations of players all the time. And I want folks that are new to the hobby to maybe experience this adventure and feel what is inspired by 50 years of history kind of deal. So I thought that was cool. Like it starts in a tavern, right? It starts in an inn. And you get your adventure from Orin. It's an Azamar innkeep. There's evil cultists in a temple nearby. You got to find out what's going on. So very simple, right? Like very basic, but also basic doesn't mean bad. It just, if you need a light prep game, this is it. And then it talks about here the twist kind of thing, which is neat. So originally, my adventure was written for a black dragon, and that's why it's really dark and kind of Orcus themed and whatnot. And then things in between had to get iterated and had to switch it up, and it ended up being for a silver dragon. And it was cool to see how through the iteration and that change, it evolved to this, where silver dragons kind of, this silver dragon is in the Temple of Orcus. It's kind of hiding in this statue, and these cultists rediscover this old abandoned temple. And so there's a Wizard of Oz kind of vibe where the silver dragon, his arm, is now talking through the statue of Orcus as if he is Orcus, and tricking the cultists to do things that'll draw the attention of adventurers to eventually come to the temple and kind of defeat the cults before they can gain too much power. The dragon is a wormling, so he's not super strong. And so he's kind of using these deception tactics to kind of get people to come save him and also stop the evil that is growing in the temple. That's just a cool thing about design. So for game designers, when we work on projects, we will, turn in our manuscripts. Books take about 24 to 18 months from text creation to book on a shelf. So these things take a long time to kind of mature and develop. And through that process, there is a lot of iterations. So it goes through several rounds of editing, several developmental editing. And then if things change in between there, you got to change things up. So that's just a little sneak peek at like the design process for a game designer. Is you're given your project, you're given your specs, usually an outline, you kind of design to that. And through that, it changes. And it's neat to see like the culmination of a lot of different creators, whether they're editors, developmental editors, other designers, the influence and maybe the project scope changes and what the end product is. So I'm really happy with this one, where it's a neat little twist that's unusual. And so again, you got that traditional vibe, traditional D&D Orcus, cultists in a dungeon. There's a dragon, but I think the twist is kind of neat. It's got like that Wizard of Oz thing. Hey, what's up, Cloud Surfer? Yeah. Developing a Moonbeam, an Apple TV Moonbeam app. That would be dope to get it on the TV. I would love that. Hell yeah. Let me see here. Going back to the Reddits to see where are some other questions we got. Okay. So kind of explaining, I'm going to just continue to give the overview here. So the prep, again, very simple. Tells you exactly what to do. So if you're a new dungeon master, this is a great book and anthology for you to get started on to DM. If you're an experienced dungeon master, this is going to be easy peasy for you. This is going to be like one of the easiest adventures you've ever ran. You're going to come here. You're going to be like, oh, I guess it's a piece of cake. You don't even have to like spend an hour. You don't even probably have to read this ahead of time. You can just literally read it and run it at the same time. It's going to tell you what stat blocks to get. You'll have to have the monster manual with you to do this if you're running everything not digital. If you're pen and paper hardcore, you'll have to have this book and the monster manual. Something about that, because I've seen a lot of people talking online about, it would have been nice if they had the stat blocks in this book. It would have been nice if they had magic items and stuff like that. This is just like a little bit behind the curtain as someone who's made several D&D books, third-party books, looking at the production process and things like that. During the time of this book's creation, remember the rule books, the core rule books were being made. Those books have a very special production pipeline compared to other books. There's a lot more refinement. There's a lot more playtesting. The Unearthed Arcanas were coming out. So I think what we'll see is like with this book, there's no mechanical features because it was happening either in conjunction with or a little bit before in terms of timeline as development of the core rule books. The mechanics were not yet even codified. And so it's just from a simply like a logistical perspective. You cannot introduce new mechanical elements to a book when those mechanical elements haven't been designed or codified for the core rule set itself. So I think that's why with this book, it's relying a lot on the core rule books because um, they just came out. There was new design elements and mechanics in them, and so that is kind of what that was. I think the logical choice is, hey, we can get this adventure book out on time or on a certain timeline. It just won't have these mechanical elements because we can't go back and forth and codify them here. And then we have to do more text development, and it throws out layout. It throws out a lot of things, art, stuff like that. So that's behind the scenes, like logistics is what gets you on these kind of things. So if you use D&D Beyond, I mean, I use it on my phone. When I run, my style is I will run me. I usually have the book with me, but all stat blocks and everything I build, I do like the encounter builders in my D&D Beyond, and I have it on my phone. That's my style. So if you do that, pretty easy. If you're using the monster manual itself, have it next to you and put little tabs in it, you know. Um, but it tells you what stat blocks you're going to need. Tells you the key NPCs. These are like the named NPCs, the people that have a little bit of personality that you can role play with. Usually, it's going to tell you where they're at. Going to give you their stat block, kind of give you their alignment, things like that, and it gives you a little bit of a role so you can kind of understand who they are. So we got Nizarim, the Silver Dragon. We got Zia here, the cult leader. Yondis is a questioning human cultist. Melandra Vox, cultist librarian or cult librarian. This is cool little throwback. If anybody plays EverQuest, this is kind of like Lady Vox inspired. The Ice Dragon. I thought that was cool to throw in there. Brittle Bones, deluded dwarf cultist, and Norixius, a devout dragonborn cultist. These are some cool little names. Having fun doing stuff with them. And so we got the adventure background, kind of goes over the synopsis, where one of the cult leaders, Zia, she's a ghast, and she discovered this temple. She's trying to bring Orcus back, and draw his power, not bring him back, but bring his cult back to power. And they want to like literally kill everybody in like a 10-mile radius. Like that's their goal. Like they want to sacrifice everybody so that the demon prince of undeath can be empowered, and then the temple will thrive. So it's a little bit more dark than your traditional D&D adventures, but that was done on purpose. Again, homage to the old school kind of vibe there. And you get the Deathsbane Tavern. That's a cool name. It's where you start. You get your quest. They give you a map of the temple that their parents had made. So their parents had long ago, or their ancestors had long ago, defeated the cult of Orcus in this region, in that temple. That's why it was abandoned. Now it's there's activity going on. So they want you to go find out what's happening. They're just an innkeep, so they can't handle it themselves. And they give you this hand-drawn map, to go look at. So it is a cool handout. You can give the players, they'll have a little map, which is neat. I thought it was cool because this gives them some reference for exploration. Again, there are a lot of secret doors and areas in this temple, and they're not depicted here, but that makes it fun, right? So they can maybe like draw in where the secrets are and stuff like that, which would be cool. So you go to the temple, boom, quick. We don't have to have a whole to-do here. Just they get to the temple and they start the mission, their quest. And so you go into this is where it tells you about the Temple of Orcus, information about the cult, what things are going on, who knows what, and kind of like what what are Orcus's orders, which are really the Silver Dragon. So this is really cool to kind of ham up a little bit. The Silver Dragon Nizarim is telling the cultists to do really odd things, like paint the temple with clouds and break statues of Orcus and do all these weird things. The idea here is cultists kind of like just are brainwashed and don't really think about things and just do. And that's kind of like a theme here is like, if they're cultists of Orcus and they believe Orcus is talking through the statue, and the statue just says some crazy stuff to do. Will they do it? And yeah, that's like kind of what we're depicting here. So you could have fun if you're a DM, like ham it up a bit, right? Uh, these are some of the things that the silver dragon, his arm, is telling them to do, like paint silver and white clouds on the walls. Leave a dragon chess set in the main area that disappears because the dragon's playing with it. Destroy all the ghoul statues and destroy all symbols of the demon lord Orcus. You could add your own stuff here. Maybe they're, I don't know, coloring. Maybe they're doing images of good stuff. Just think about some fun things to add to the flavor of what's happening here, so that the character's like, what's going on? Why are these cultists like doing this? It might even add some doubt, as like, if you first see the cultists doing that, what if they're painting like a rainbow and birds? Like, do you attack them right away? I don't know. It'd be kind of weird to do that, but that's where you can kind of have fun, I think, with this adventure. Is the cultists are definitely bad. They're definitely bad. They're just brainwashed cultists. So they're doing weird things that are not traditionally what a bad person would do. So think about that as you run the adventure. Let's see here. All right. And then some of the skeletons, there's a lot of skeletal remains. Here's the map of the temple. You'll see all these little skeletons they have all over the place. They have tattered robes. I thought that'd be cool to put, so that you could like dress up as cultists yourselves and maybe role play to like, you don't have to do the bashing in and fighting. You can come in and like do some role playing, pretend you're cultists, stuff like that. So here's the actual map, right? And you'll see a lot of the secret areas that are annotated on the map here. So you have all these secret areas. They have like treasure and things like that. Down here as well, you got this big, symbol of Orcus, and up here's the big statue of Orcus and all this stuff. This is where they live. These are living quarters. This is the library. Here's like a prison cell, and here's like a big trap. These stairs, they like activate if you step on them, and they become a slope. So you like slide down, and then this pit opens up, and there's spikes in there, and you fall down and die. And then here's where you come in. So here's where the players come in. So this is like, again, a traditional dungeon. Definitely bad guys. There's no what ifs about it. Coming in here, you could do it several ways. Just straight up combat, or like a ruse, like deceit, and try to trick them and stuff like that. And so when they first come in, you'll see that like the floor had a mosaic on it. It depicted Orcus slaying a legion of knights. Bazia ordered the servants to destroy the mosaic because that's what the statue said. So they're kind of like zombies are like sweeping up tiles of, this mosaic, and they're putting in wheelbarrows. And so it looks kind of weird. Like you wouldn't expect them to be breaking down these statues. But they're down there doing that, which is cool. And this is where you have like one of your first cult fanatics. And there's three types. There's like, Akira is just straight up fanatic of Orcus. You're not going to change their mind about anything. They're going to fight you to the death because Orcus is their Lord and Savior, so to speak. So you can kind of have fun with these like role play moments. It's cool because Akira is hardcore. Then you have some that are kind of like on the fence, and then you have some that are like, I want to get out of here, out of this cult, which is cool. So we got different sloped passages. This is where we got Hall of Swiveling Statues. This is cool. You got Flaming Skeleton. This the first time someone opens one of the secret doors to the vaults, one set of remains animates, ignites an unholy fire, and becomes a flaming skeleton, which is cool. So there's a lot of neat like secret doors and statues in this. So the character should use things like the iron spikes or things to wedge doors open. Again, old school vibe, right? Maybe they take the 10-foot pole and they kind of like knock things around. They could find things that way. That was just done on purpose to elicit that experience, that old school experience. The Sinister Stairs. This is the one where if you the first or when a non-undead creature steps on the steps, they like all the stairs snap and they become a slope, and the pit at the bottom opens up, and then they slide potentially into the pit, taking bludgeoning damage and piercing damage. So, your old school trap, right? Like a fun thing. You could kind of like try to break the trap, try to wedge it stuck, or kind of open it up yourselves. So that's cool. Here's some really cool artwork of the library. You got these two undead ogre zombies, which is a fun stat block. You have Melindra Vox here, who is the librarian. She was killed by the previous adventurers that came. She didn't want to leave her library, so they killed her. I always think it's fun, by the way, as a designer, to introduce these elements of like, this librarian didn't want to leave, and she's obviously a librarian, like cultists of Orcus, and she got killed. She's a ghost. I mean, do you feel bad for her or not? I don't know, but she's here. She swore never to hurt cultists of Orcus, so she can't stop these zombies. And the cultists that are like destroying, there's a dwarf in here who's leading these zombies to destroy all the books and everything, and she's trying to stop them, but she can't physically do it. So she beseeches the characters to do it, and she'll maybe help you out if they do. So it's kind of like an interesting dilemma. Do the characters help this, ghost librarian who is essentially a cultist of Orcus? Do they even care to stop these zombie guys, the ogres? Do they fight? And then you will find out that there's a way to send her into the afterlife. You'll read about it here, where characters who take the study action, they could find out that if you remove all the books or scrolls from the library or destroy them all, Melindra, she'll like go into the afterlife. She'll have no purpose anymore, because her purpose is to watch over these books and scrolls, because she is the librarian. But if you do that, I think it's good to send her. She becomes really upset and she'll fight the characters. So that's a cool little moment of, do they send her to the afterlife? She doesn't want to go to the afterlife. She's undead. She loves being undead. And if they do that, she'll fight them. Kind of like neat to see maybe some of the characters in your group. I could see like a paladin or a cleric or something, like thinking we should put her to rest, and that causing some conflict there. Let's see here. Looking over here at more of the Reddit questions. So I think that's a cool. I think that'll be a cool moment for folks there to like really showcase some of the party members and give them a tough thing to talk about. Then we have the dining hall. This is cool. This guy Yondis is funny. Yondis Morgren. This is like one of the ones who has doubt about the cult, and he is wearing like pasty makeup. I would imagine he kind of looks like Dwight from The Office, where he wears like that face mask and he's like pretending he's Hannibal Lecter. He's kind of like he shambles around like a zombie, like he's eating raw uncooked meat, and he's like, I'm undead, man, but he's really not. And every time he's been alone with Nazarum, the statue of Orcus, like Nazarum talks to him about the beauty of life and good food, and how living is great. And so he's all confused, and so he's like, wait, what's going on? Is this, is it worth worshiping Orcus or not? So the characters can maybe like win him over. He could be I think a comedic character. So this is a fun character, maybe role play, is just like this this dude who's wearing fake zombie skin and just like trying hard to be a zombie, but he's really not. And then if you beat him up, get him bloodied, which is cool. This is, by the way, in the new rule set, which is bloodied is a condition, or I don't think it's necessarily a condition, it's a rule, but when they have half their hit points or less remaining, they're bloodied. So if you fight him and get him bloodied, he'll give up. Please, no, don't kill me. Which shows you he's very doubtful, because a cultist of Orcus would want to die, right? And be undead, born undead. So that's cool. Let me see one more thing here. I'll go back up here because this is the the other cultist, um, Elith Brittlebones. So they're kind of like in between. So you have the really hardcore fanatic. You have Yondis, who is like the doubter, and Elith is in between. So if anybody uses like healing magic or turn undead, they'll be kind of like awestruck with like the power of, you know, the deity. Oh, they'll be like, oh wow, I need to worship that god and whatnot, because they believe like maybe all the gods are dead and that the demons are taking over. This is like their moment. So you know, Elite Brittlebones is a cool cultist also to play around with like that middle ground of it's kind of like Goldilocks. One cultist is too hardcore, uh, Elite is just right, and then Giannis is like, you know, definitely not hardcore anymore. Definitely skeptical. So I thought that'd be cool to talk about there. Yeah, I like Bloodied as a rule, Silent Brad. I think that's a it makes sense. Like so many times before designing in fifth edition, we had to put like if I wanted to get something similar to the effect of, you know, this person will give up halfway through a fight, I had to come up with like a threshold of hit points. So I like Bloodied a lot better. It's like Bloodied half versus like when they're at 25 hit points or less or 50 hit points or less or blah blah blah. I think Bloodied is just cool. I think you could add a lot of stuff because then you probably do like stuff with spells. Like when someone's bloodied and you cast a spell on them, it does extra damage. Um, you know, yeah, I would always mention it to my players too, right? They look beat up. Hmm. So let's see here. We got the living quarters, where the cultists live. You'll find some like stuff hanging in there. You can kind of maybe find some robes. Maybe there's something, you know, if you're a DM and you want to hide some of your own stuff in there, like a little maybe a clue to the next um, adventure or seed something, you could put it in there. I think that'd be cool. Or a journal entry, that would be cool. A cool spot for that too. Um, let's see here. I'm looking at some questions to make sure in Reddit I don't have any more I want to answer for that. Yeah, so a lot of folks asked about campaigns with Orcus involved. I think the living quarters would be a cool place to put um, maybe a journal entry from Zia or something like leading to your next kind of hook in the arc. If you're going to go with an Orcus arc to connect adventures, or you have your own campaign you're running, I would use maybe the living quarters to do that. I think that'd be cool. Let's see here. We got some tunnels, the ritual chambers. This is like where the ritual chambers is where. Let me go here. Temple of Orcus. I'm gonna find the map. Yeah, here's the ritual chambers over here, where they would kill people and stuff. So this was the library again. Secret door connecting to the living quarters. Living quarters here. That's where Yondis is hanging out. So we got the three cultists. Here's the one who is hardcore. Here's the one who's in the middle. Here's the one who's skeptical. And so then we over here is the ritual chamber. So this one here, this is where they would use conduct rites to like turn people from living to undead in this room. You'll see there's some remnants of that here. You have a wraith who is, you know, a treacherous tiefling cultist who tried to overthrow the temple's high priest. If you disturb skeletal remains, they manifest as a wraith, which is not scary. I mean, a wraith is pretty nasty, so you know that'd be a interesting fight. You'll see there's some treasure in cell B if the characters search there. And this is cool too. I think there's like a little bit of a quest thread here. I could see this wraith kind of, you know, giving them some information or leading them somewhere else. I think that's a cool thing to consider. And then you'll find here let's see here, there is there's a +1 whip that the dead torturer has. And then behind the loose stones in cell B, you're going to find a wand of secrets. So those are two magic items you can get, uncommon and uncommon. So they're in here. And then check out this. Zia Yeah, there she is. So she is a ghast, and then here are her ghouls. A ghast is essentially um, a very intelligent ghoul. It's essentially someone who's been imbued with the power of undeath and did not lose their mental faculties in the process, like zombies and ghouls kind of do. So they receive like a direct blessing from Orcus. So they're devout followers. She's wearing the red robes. I love the artwork. Here's the paint. You see they're painting. Got paint buckets and a paintbrush. So I think it's kind of hilarious. Like you have this evil cult and these like really nasty ghouls, and they're painting. Again, ham it up if you want. I think it's a cool thing to have there as like a what, like this adventure feels familiar, the whole theme, but this is odd, you know. So she's a ghast grave caller, one of the new stat blocks from D&D 2024. You'll see that there's 4 ghouls, 4 zombies. So this is like the big fight. This is the big fight scene, and this happens in area T12. And let's see, we're going to go back to the map that is right here in the center. So you would go here after theoretically you've explored everywhere, but you know, I could see some people coming in here and then going straight there. That might happen. So they could, or they can just, you know, go, they can come maybe through here, the secret area, and walk around, you know, and then find stuff. But yeah, this is where this big fight will happen. They're gonna fight. She's a booming voice from the statue replies, "This is your final test here. Do not fail me." Uh, so that's cool that you're gonna see. You know, you could play this up with your party, and maybe they really think that that's Orcus talking, which is kind of scary. I mean, as a player, I'd be kind of scared. Um, and so you could all, and then you also have here. Let's see here. Roll initiative for Nazarum. On his turn, he emerges from the secret door in the back of the statue and comes to join the fray, trusting that the adventurers are the heroes he's been waiting for. So this is where, you know, you're going to have the silver dragon, Wormling, joining the fray and getting in the fight potentially. And that'd be cool because you could maybe save it for a really neat moment. Maybe if your characters are really powerful and they're just like kind of min-max kind of player group and they're doing really well, maybe you kind of wait to bring Nazarum in. Or you, if they're kind of more new and need help, you bring them in quicker, you know? So I think that's something you could play around with, is maybe a really fun moment you want to showcase, like the reveal of the silver dragon. And they don't necessarily have to know that the silver dragon is the one speaking at this point, because he can come out kind of like stealthily from the back, because again, he is coming out of the secret door that leads into the statue. So he's technically coming out over here. And the players would be like in this area when the big fight starts. So I don't know if they're going to see like all the way back there. Again, unless they may be coming through one of these secret areas and bypass the fight, they might run into him first that way. Let's see here. So the Great Statue of Orcus, the room where he's at, T13, this might be a little bit different depending on which way things go. Like if they use the secret doors to go in here first, they can speak to Nazarum first, and he's going to give them some commands. Again, I think inspiration would be like Wizard of Oz vibes. It'd be funny if like someone did like a Jeff Goldblum kind of approach for the Silver Dragon for Nazarum. That'd be kind of funny, actually. Jeff Goldblum. I might have to take note of that. Let's see here. So Nazarum is going to feel them out, make sure they're kind of good, see that they're not cultists. And if they are just like cultists, he may like talk to them a little bit to kind of suss out who they really are. And then, if he hasn't seen themselves prove themselves in battle, so if they came in through a secret door into this room and bypassed T12, he's going to be cautious and he'll test them. He's going to give them random commands, and you can get those random commands by rolling on this table or coming up with your own. They're silly things like, bring me a wheel of cheese, or bring me a banquet of cooked meat, you know, something silly like that. And he'll see what they do. And after they do 3 of them, he's going to shift and be friendly towards them, and he'll reveal himself. And so here, characters struck by the bizarre nature of Orcus' commands can take the search action, make a DC 15 Wisdom insight check, and on a success, they realize there's some deception going on. So that's really cool. So there's a way for the characters to be like, hey, what? This is weird. You can have them do the search action, make the check, and see if they figure out the Zarum's deceit. Once he's friendly towards them, he's going to tell them about the temple, how he got there, why he did what he did, to, have the cult go out and commit these petty thefts to alert people to their presence, and then hopefully have adventurers come and defeat the cult. And so he also he hasn't searched the temples, as he knows there might be some secret doors, for example. And so that's a cue to give the characters like, oh, maybe there's secrets in here. Go search around. And if they search around, they're going to find all those vaults. There's 4 hidden vaults. And this is cool where they can get a lot of different treasure. So each vault is a statue, has the form of a creature, like a Death Knight or a vampire, Mummy Lord or Wraith. And they have guardians. So you would roll to see what the statue is. You would roll to see what the guardian is. And then if they disturb the statue of it at all, the guardian come out like a flame skull, some crawling claws. They fight them, and then they can get the treasure. This is my favorite one I kind of put in here. A basket containing what appears to be the Wand of Orcus, which is this wild item. And that's another thing for the campaign. Folks have asked about, maybe the whole campaign is about Orcus or about the Wand of Orcus. This could be, maybe it's not a fake, because right now this is actually a powerless replica worth 50 gold piece. It radiates a false magical aura when subjected to the detect magic spell. So if a player saw this and rolled like a religion check or arcana, they might recognize this as the Wand of Orcus, which is like a big deal. It's really not. And if they cast like detect magic on it to be like, oh, is it really? It's going to go off. Like, yes, it is. They're going to be like, oh my gosh. There's nothing to prevent you from saying it is actually the Wand of Orcus, which would be hilarious. Or maybe it's part of it, or maybe it's like slumbering. It hasn't been woken up yet. So food for your thoughts there. Then you have these other kind of, gold items, gems, whatnot. You can have a common magic item that you get by rolling off the Dungeon Master's Guide tables, or you just pick it if your player needs one. And then same thing here on an uncommon magic item. You can do that. And then we have the conclusion. So after the cult is defeated, here's a cool symbol of Orcus, which is in the Beetle and Grimm's box that's coming out in, I think, August, which will be cool. I think this would be like a pendant you could wear, like a chain. You defeat the cultists. You go back to the innkeeper, and they give you a reward, and they thank you for everything. And ta-da, you all have done a good job, and you saved the day. And so you'll see here the history of silver dragons. This here are the silver dragon artwork. Talks a little bit about where they're from. 1993 monster manual. Here's a 77 monster manual. That's wild. Look at that. Draconomicon. This is the one James Wyatt led the book, who's also one of the book leads here, which is cool. Like almost 20 years later, he's doing another dragon book. Magic the Gathering card. All this stuff. Yeah. I think this is what, 3rd edition or 4th edition? Yeah, 2009, 4th edition. Monster Manual 2014, that's 5th edition. And here's the new kind of look of the Silver Dragon. The concept art for 23. Then here in the 2025 Monster Manual, there is our Silver Dragon. Very cool. Check that out. Yeah. Yeah, and so that is the Will of Orcus. So again, I hope you all like it. I'm glad I saw all the questions in the Reddit. and I was hopefully able to answer a lot of them. This will be a VOD that I'll be sharing there as well, so folks can check it out. And I hope you all enjoy the other adventures in Dragon Delves. Because again, if we go here, you'll see there's a bunch of them. Really cool artwork in all of them. You know, Baker's Dozen has like the Hansel and Gretel theme kind of vibe. We have, I think this one's cool. For Whom the Void Calls. This one has really cool artwork. So there's a lot of different approaches to adventures in here. There's a really cool one of a Githyanki. I want to show that picture real quick. Where are you? Where are you? Tyson Logos maps. Here we go. That's so cool. That's freaking awesome. But yeah, I think you all will like the different adventures. There is a different flavor for everybody. I think this is a good book to get, knowing that you're going to get solid adventures, easy to run, using the new kind of mechanical presentation of things, because it's very similar to 5e in general. It's just like, do you have the new search actions or hide actions, or different actions you could do throughout the adventures, which I think are great. And yeah, they're fun. I recommend it. And you have all your dragons that you can mess around with and do stuff with. And again, for overall campaigns, I think you can do that too. I would lean Orcus, Bahamut, Tiamat, maybe throw in some Dragon Slayer items and things like that here and there. And yeah, this would be a good time. So if you all have any questions, hit me up on Moonbeam or on the Dragon Delves subreddit, and I will gladly answer them. And let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you like Dragon Delves. If you play my adventure, The Will of Orcus, let me know how it went. And I'll see you all around soon. Later, everybody. Thanks for watching. See ya. Thank you.